Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch, and if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 81 of Breaking Step. Jackal! Tibs snapped as the ground shook and the rings began to. Not the discs. And the discs began to turn at different rates. The fighter ran out of the building. Sorry, I didn't think it. That's not new, Mess said, turning to face the walls growing from the ground to surround the plaza. He cursed when pulling on the bow string did nothing. I have a score of arrows, he warned, taking one from the quiver at his hip, and I don't think they're going to regenerate without essence to feed it. Once I'm out, I'll be useless. And I'm already useless. Oh, ta 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 ta. Don said, because that's definitely Don. Tibs. Okay, now here again, I want to uh, into the room. Peered into the room to study the rings. Observe. To look at the ring's motion and immediately saw he'd been wrong. Most turned. The bottom two didn't. It had to mean something. Do I look like I have a staff? Don yelled, pulling Tibbs' attention to his team. I meant, I'm a sorcerer, Don yelled at Jackal. Not a fighter who's throwing himself into a fight to die. Don, Mess started. And it's your job to protect me. The sorcerer looked around, terrified, and Tibbs went to him. The wall has holes, Mez yelled, and Don ran for the closest one. You aren't leaving me behind. People are coming through, Jekyll yelled as Don fell, trying to stop and turn. We aren't going to leave you, Tibbs told him, uselessly trying to sense the golem people. Breathe, Don. Breathe yourself now. You're on my team and dying's not allowed, remember? How is the dungeon making them work if there isn't any essence in there? Mez asked, joining Tibbs and Don. The sorcerer's breathing was ragged, but he looked around the stout gray-skinned golem people. At the stout gray-skinned golem people, the fear left his eyes, replaced by calculation. The same way we aren't dead, his breathing steadied. Tibbs says they're filled with the same essence everyone has. So just like it's protecting us, it's protecting them. Tibbs helped him stand. Would that not mean they are as limited as we, if that is the case? Cumdar asked. Except that they're golems, Maz replied as they stepped away from the wall and the holes that had as the creatures. Moved away from the walls, and the holes that had let them in closed. Stone's a lot tougher than most of us. People golem, Tibbs said, wishing he didn't need essence to be able to sense through it. If a stone could change the wall, it had to mean there was essence there. But ones made the ones made like these, Don said, straightening his robe, are tougher than the ones that look like us. Like they're made of a mix of flesh and stone. And there are 12 of them. Tibbs pulled his attention away from the wall. I'll deal with half of them, Jekyll said. You four deal with the rest. The people golem were the problem to face. Then the rings, since they had to be the puzzle. And once that was solved, the walls would go down. May I remind our leader he is not currently made of stone? They looked like the guards they'd encountered patrolling the street. I didn't have that from any of the pit fights before I came here. Muscular and wearing armor. Two were slightly taller, maybe matching Tibs, and they wore metal armor, where the others looked to be armored in something made of scales, like the dragons, except they didn't glow. If that was because they weren't enchanted, or the lack of essence kept the glow from being visible, Tibs would find out when they fought. But were they armed and armored in those pits? Mez asked. So they aren't fighting fair. Like that's any different from the fights I've been in. Done. Stay by Mez if you stay by Mez. If you can think of a way to help, do so, but don't get yourself killed, or Tibbs is going to have to yell at you. Doesn't that go for you too? Mez asked. I'll be fine, Jekyll replied. I'll do my best to help him, Mez said. Are you going to be okay, Kumdar? Are you going to be okay, Kumdar? Fortunately, I have had to teach that cleric how to fight staff to staff. It has improved my own abilities. Tibbs. Oh, I think this is what was going to happen. It was, yeah. I had Tibbs and Kumdar here, but a word, one got missing. But still. Tibbs? Jekyll asked. The knife didn't materialize out of wherever they went when Tibbs sent one away. Stowe had said it wasn't his armor, but there were no hidden sheath for them. Tibbs figured it was the same kind of weave that let Jekyll and his quaint pouch take more than they looked like they should, only somewhere he didn't know. He reached into his quaint pouch, but only felt coins and paper. Why hadn't he thought to keep at least one knife there for when he potted his bracer and felt the end of the pommel in the hidden sheath. I'm good. Not great. The knife looked so small, but at least it was a weapon. Tibbs looked at Dawn. It's going to be okay. The sorcerer's responding nod was sharp, and Tibbs figured the stoic expression was to hide the fear. Tibbs stepped away and set his sight on the smallest of the golem people. Maybe he was a rogue too, with the short sword and set of armor that seemed to be more leather than scales. They could win, he reminded himself. Stowe didn't set traps out to outright kill, but to teach. And this was about teaching them how they to fight without essence. When he couldn't breathe the fear down, he swallowed it. He'd do this. The rogue picked up speed, pulling away from the others, and Tibbs walked in its direction. At the last moment, he reversed the grip on his knife and used it to block the sword, then shouldered his opponent hard, staggering it away. Good. Just like the other guards. Even if they looked like they were part stone, they were still more like actual people. Stowe was sticking to what he had established. Instead of adding challenges, he dodged the swing, only to stagger back from the punch it distracted him from. He moved his jaw through the pain. So they had numbers and skill. Stowe knew there wouldn't be any essence there, and he'd made the golem people so they wouldn't depend on that. Tibbs stepped as his opponent moved, maintaining the distance, evaluating it the way Quigley had taught him, looking for the pattern in its motion he could take advantage of. He had grown lax, depending on his sword's changing length to surprise his opponent. As they moved, he caught sight of Jackal surrounded, hitting as much as he was hit. Mez stood arrow-notched and waiting, with Dawn behind him, the fear visible now that he wasn't the focus of attention. Kumdar was, he'd be who was fighting behind Tibbs. He rushed the golem person as they started the swing, sidestepped the already in motion sword, and cut through the armor into its flesh, leaving a deep gash. Then his grin and motion ended by the sword coming through his chest. Tibbs stared at the pommel, trying to understand why he was still alive, or at least why he wasn't screaming in pain. The golem person stepped back, pulling the sword out. Why wasn't it covered with blood? The question was chased away by the swords coming back down, and Tib jumped out of the way. Why ever he wasn't dead meant he had to stay in the fight. He could look for answers once they won. He dodged the next attack, then darted in and scored another gash, this time getting out of the way from the following attack. They circled each other. This couldn't be something Stowe had done. They'd had that talk a while back, and he wouldn't treat Tibs any different than the other runners. Then why was it? Why wasn't the sword... He hesitated. Was that? The golden person was on him, the sword heading... The sword heading for the metal sword. Had his chest again. It went in and through. Like before, like any time metal was used in an attempt to hurt him, he didn't feel anything. His armor resisted slightly as it exited, finding a part of the leather that wasn't already damaged. It wasn't because he couldn't use his essence that he no longer had his element. Metal couldn't hurt him, even here, where essence didn't exist. He grabbed the rogue's hand, and as he pulled the sword out and slammed the knife into the wrist, with a hard push, he severed the hand off, then dodged a punch, and he pulled the sword out. He put all his strength behind the slice of the golem's head flew off his... Blah. He pulled all his strength behind the slice, and the golem's head flew off its body as the sword's weight carried Tibs into a near fall. He'd forgotten swords had weight to them. No matter how much metal he added to his ice sword, it weighed nothing. Even when he picked up a metal sword, he made them weigh nothing. But without essence, it was all there. Although, Tibs swung it once he regained his footing, and with expecting the weight, the motion was even, if not entirely expertly done. Somehow, he remembered the short sword he trained with before making his ice one being heavier. Well, since he was armed, Tibs needed to go help his team. Jekyll was down to 3 golem people and grinned like a madman. Mez and Don had moved as the fighting shifted, but they were still without direct opponents, which left Kumdar. Tibs ran to the cleric, who kept the 4 golem people from crowding him through spinning his staff far more expertly than someone who just gotten better because he had to teach Clara. Him and his secrets again. Tibs shouldered 2 out of the way, then felt the sword pressure through his armor. You should not. Kumdar dodged a swing and replied with the butt of his staff into the golem person, but metal armor meant it only staggered slightly. Be more cautious. It's fine. Tibs cut the sword arm as the sword in his back pushed through his chest and the already present gash in his armor there. They can't. The punch sent him skidding to the floor, his armor ripped from center to side. The pain in his face went away, and he realized he was suffused with purity. We can suffuse ourselves, he exclaimed, then scrambled away from the fighter in the metal armor approaching. Where had his sword gone? I am well aware of that fact, Kumdar said, shattering a golem person's arm with a staff strike, then another so hard that when it hit the floor, it crumbled away. Well, I didn't know that. Tibs formed his shield to block the incoming fist, then cursed as the impact on his arm broke it. As the impact on his arm broke him and sent it sliding on the floor again. He was healed as he got to his feet. He dodged another punch, then slammed his palm against the metal arm to divert it, and was surprised the metal was warm against his skin. Then the essence there, his head spun as he came to a stop. Okay, this I was told is not exam. His head still spun. As the slide came to a stop. He groaned, pushing himself to all fours. How had he sensed the essence in the armor? His head cleared, and he looked at his hand. The ripped apart glove. He'd made skin contact with it. Oh, that's not the one. Oh well. Tibs! Kamdar yelled, and he barely rolled out of the way of the kick. He reached for the golem person's face. He could. No, he couldn't. He dodged a punch, and he couldn't simply drain the essence out. He'd agreed to that. He reached for the golem's face again, so he'd put essence in. He grabbed onto it and sent fire into the golem. The punch lifted him and broke the contact, but as he raised his head and pushed himself off the floor, the golem person was staggering, smoking as part blackened. Beyond them, Mez was fighting the golem person, hitting them with his bow to little effect. Dawn! Tibbs yelled at the sorcerer who had backed away from the fighting until he was against the wall. It's like with the green stone. Touch means you can affect it. Dawn looked at him uncomprehendingly, and Tibbs stepped around the crumbling golem person as Kamdar let out a pained groan. Help Mez! He yelled, cursing internally for forgetting the cleric was already in trouble. Tibbs hoped this worked. He suffused himself with earth and he collided with Kamdar. The person golem's hit sent Tibbs to the ground hard enough his breath left him, but nothing had broken, and Kamdar was getting to his feet. In the distance, Dawn let out a scream that sounded more terrified than aimed at inspiring terror. Tibbs hoped that wasn't him running away. He wanted Dawn to be better than that. His head rang from the following punch, and his head rang from the following punch, and his head left a crack on the ground from the impact. There. There was motion around him, black, the clacking of something on something else, sound that were different. And need help. He knew the voice. Tibbs, Kamdar said, that was who owned the voice. I need assistance if we are to be victorious. There was strain in it, and he hoped the Tibbs in question would come help Kamdar. He liked the cleric, even with all his secret. Tibbs! The strain was greater. Didn't he know that Tibbs too? Of course he did. He was Tibbs. He suffused himself with purity, and his mind cleared. Earth again, and he kicked the legs out from under the golem person Kamdar was keeping from striking Tibbs. Kamdar held. Oh no, helped it down. Okay. Kamdar helped it down with a strike in the back. Then Tibbs kicked its head with enough strength. It ripped off, and the body crumbled away. It appears that you must still be cautious while fighting. The cleric offered his hand and pulled Tibbs to his feet. Tibbs picked up the sword. I think this is the dungeon showing we've gotten too used to relying on our essence. I had gathered that much. Tibbs looked around and stared at Dawn on the back of a golem, clinging to them. Cling to it. To it as they pummeled him with blows until clinging as it pummeled him with blows until it melted. It melted, then crumbled away, leaving Dawn curled in on himself on the floor. He took a step toward the sorcerer as Jackal punched the last of the golem person he'd been fighting. He turned, waved at Tibbs, and then toppled over. Jackal! Tibbs ran for his friend. And that concludes chapter 81 of Breaking Step. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story, as well as the others in the series, they are up for free on Royal Road. If you want to read ahead of Royal Road and support me in the process, that is on my Patreon, where we're about 20 chapters ahead. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Links are in the note, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.